This episode is intended exclusively to provide information and education to help individuals better understand cycles. However, this information is not be construed as professional advice as to the buying and selling of securities or other investment instruments. In no event does the host express any opinion with respect to or make recommendations regarding the purchase or sale of any particular investment instrument. There is a very high degree of risk involved in trading securities. Buying and selling decisions are solely within the personal discretion of each individual.
From the mind of Lars von Thienen, the most advanced cycle analysis, hot off the press.
Yeah, hello cycle nerds, welcome to another episode of Cycles TV. My name is Lars von Thienen, and today let's talk about Chinese stock market, right? So everyone is talking about the Chinese stock markets now. So as it was just out of interest for the past 4 years, now it seems like as the media is discussing what is happening in the Chinese stock market with this stimulus now happening, we need to apply some cycle analysis. Yeah, sure, it's after the fact. I mean, we have seen these Chinese markets jumping on 20% right in some days or a week. Yes, but we didn't monitor this upfront. So anyhow, it is time. The Chinese stock market. What are the cycles telling us? Will this up move last longer? Is this just a short-term pop? Let's see, right? So, we will analyze the CSI 300, like the blue chips or the blue index in the Chinese main index, and for sure the Shanghai Composite, which then is having everything which is traded in the Chinese market or on that exchange included, so smaller and larger companies. We will start with the weekly perspective, long-term perspective first, then move to the daily and see if we can find an alignment of time-based cycles. As always, we are live. I will monitor the chat section, and latest at the end of the session, I will take some time to go through your questions. So, let's start with the CSI 300 on a weekly perspective. And I will also do some, not new topics, but I will alter a little bit the way how we do the analysis so that if you're a follower, you will also hopefully find something new. And first, that's what I want to do here. I mean, we saw this up move here in this 1 or 2 weeks, and I will now remove that up leg from the analysis. So I will now adjust the starting point of our analysis to this final major low here. So I adjusted the endpoint to that point in time here, so 9th of September, and I will now update the analysis that this final up leg is not part of our cycle scan, right? So this would give us the perspective before this big jump we have seen 2 weeks ago. I mean, for sure, we cannot take any benefit of that. It happened already, but I want to see if the cycles could have given us any clue upfront, so if we would have money toward that here. So that's the first adjustment I just want to make. Otherwise, I leave everything the same. I'm just excluding the final up move we have seen here. So we start with our standard analysis. We see the the cycle peaks in our spectrum. I think this is also a good example because there are some interesting peaks there and not just one. So I think this 72 weeks cycle is interesting, the 98 weeks, the 132 weeks. We could argue about that one here. It's not as beautiful as we would like it. But this longer term cycle here, 273 weeks, which has a nice left shoulder, right shoulder, really going down to 0 in the spectrum, which is a good shape. So we have at least 2, 3, maybe 4, 5 cycles maximum, which could be used for that analysis. And before I will do that, let me show you a different way also to use cycles. So what we could do And we need really to be crucial when and if we apply that. But we could say, I don't care about what's the most dominant cycle. Show me all cycles in a composite. Be careful what I'm doing here. It's not really useful all times, but for one perspective it is. So I will just activate all cycles, right? And you see the composite is more or less fitting to the price behavior, which is no surprise because we just did a decomposition of the price series into cycles. And if we now use every cycle, which for sure they will be not there, these cycles. So there are a lot of cycles which show up in the spectrum which will never be there in the markets. So therefore it not finally makes sense, but we will build this composite. But for this purpose, what I want to show you here is I don't care about the shape of the composite here for now. Yeah, because as said, this is more anyhow curve fitting the past into a structure of cycles, which everyone can curve fit or do something like that. But what I want to discuss with you now is we have what we call the cyclic energy model related to cycles. And let me clean up the spectrum because that's not interesting. So doing just activating all cycles. And what you see here at the bottom now is a different perspective on those cycles. See it just as an aggregation of the up and down phases of all cycles, which is then interpreted as a kind of energy. So if all phases align in an upward move or all phases align in a downward move, and also it's not simple as that, it's also taken in account the speed of the or the strength of the up or down moves, then this is taken into what I call this cycle energy model. And it starts with today, so you cannot just put the time axis on top of each other. So this is always the latest point of our analysis. So it's always only plotting into the future from that point here. And you see that from the point we started that, we see these huge green bars in relation to everything else which happens then even into 2026 or beyond. So this huge accumulation of positive cyclic energy, and even though we don't know which of those cycles might really be dominant or could be tracked in regards of entry, exit, timing of different trades here, what we clearly see, and that's the fascinating topic for me, and I'm also angry with myself that we have not done this upfront, because this is a weekly series. This would have been visible beginning of September, that we see a huge amount of positive upwards pointing energy from those cycles, where the majority of all those cycles are in alignment, showing us we could expect a strong up push through October, maybe until end of 2024. That's the first what we can see from this picture here. So there's a strong positive energy, stronger than what we will see in 2025, 2026, from the amplitude of those bars here during September, October. This will now fade out until the end of the year. And that's the energy model which I want to highlight. I don't do this quite often here on the channel, but it is available in our platform. And I really would emphasize, take the time to watch those energy models, as it will give you a different perspective and not just looking at the next turning point of one specific cycle, which could be wrong anyhow. And if you see, it's only useful, maybe last sentence on that, it's only useful if you see this big accumulation of similar cycles energy, which is really standing out compared to what you will see in the future here. Then you could make use of that model. Otherwise, it's not really useful, and that's also the reason I do not show this very often. So let's get back to the spectrum. Let's get rid of the energy model, and let's get back to our basic procedure, right? So we start with the most dominant cycle, which is given by the ranking score, or if you look in the spectrum, the most prominent sharp cycle which stands out in the spectrum. So let's start with this one here, which has a cycle length of 72 weeks. As always, I will not repeat this here too intensive with you. Cross-check. Oh, let's do it quite quickly. Cross-check if this cycle is in alignment with the most major turning points of the underlying index. Yeah, I think that's what I repeat here always. If that's the case, and we see it also here, the relative swings. So here you see this is the relative low compared to the left and right, which is this low here, which is then in alignment with this. I mean, not perfect, but anyhow. So therefore, and also without having this up move here in the data set of our analysis, it has pointed out to a possible next low end of July, somewhere in July here, in between the middle here. So just the shortest long-term cycle could have given us a clue to expect an up move in the Chinese stock market into early 2025 long-term perspective. Just one cycle. I would always add maybe the second cycle here to see if we get a different forecast here, and please keep your eye on this timing window here, like early 2025, because it will not change regardless if we have one or two of those cycles. So those cycles are really in alignment with their current upswing into early next year. They have not been in alignment in the past, but it shows like even the upward energy could be higher as those two cycles here align. You also see that by the green background energy here. So that's it. And then, as I said, this long-term cycle here, 233 weeks, which is a very long-term cycle, but it is clearly good showing up in the spectrum. We see it here rated as third ranked cycle here. And again, pay attention to that point in time here, March 2024, and that low here. That's what we would being interested here. So even if I remove these, ultra long term is maybe not the right phrase, but in regards to 72 or 98, this is even 3 times longer here, that cycle, but it is in the same phase. So that up leg here, which started, or from a timing perspective, started somewhere June, July, on all of these 3 long-term cycles are in alignment. And that's, to be honest, that's what we're looking for. And as I said, I'm a little bit angry with myself that we have not paid attention to the Chinese market up front. It seems like they have not been in favor for everyone. So, but that happens. But, okay, we have still some time here. So from a timing perspective, let's conclude that single weekly long-term view from the CSI 300. Long-term, we have the top 3 dominant cycles, which are currently in agreement, starting from summer this year into early 2025. There is an upswing to be expected in the CSI 300 weekly. Let's now move to the daily data of the same underlying data set. So therefore here, let's start with the daily model. Let me clean up the chart first. So here we have the daily data. As said, I think the Chinese market made a good job that no one was interested in summer of 2024 for 3 years, continuous downward trend. And maybe if you have been short Chinese stocks, interesting. But anyhow, I think no one paid attention anymore in this summer. Me too. Okay, but let's do the same. So let's exclude that upswing here. So we would simulate as if we would have been before that upswing at that major low here on 12th of September. And I will now update the analysis. So this would be the similar point in time before the upswing started. and we have this long-term downswing move into play here. Here it's also very interesting. It's different, but also very clear that 142 days shows up as a very prominent, and I mean, you don't have to be an expert in cycle analysis if you see this within a spectrum analysis. There is no other cycle to choose, to be honest. Should be clear, even if you show your kids, they will say, this is something interesting here. 142 trading days seems to be really a rhythm, a daily rhythm in the underlying Chinese stocks. And that's interesting here. I mean, you can see that's always what I like to do. And you can even follow, at least I need this kind of visual cross-check, zigzag. That zigzag just following the projected ups and downs. I mean, this is we could even go down here. This is an even 100%, just from the visual alignment, timing correlation. And that's what I always repeat here. We're talking about correlation in time, not an amplitude or price swings here. So the daily here, late July, beginning of September, would have showed us that this upswing has recently started. So mid of August. So this is now in alignment with the weekly model. You might remember the weekly model indicated a bottoming period, June, July. The daily model showed us, okay, this could occur maybe then later in August, and then started the upswing while market continued to move down. But now, as we see the strong up peak here right on time on the daily cycle, and now the daily cycle continues into November 2024. And here it will become interesting on timing, maybe the interim tops. You are aware of that the long-term cycles showed us a possible upswing into March or early 2025. And this is also in alignment with the daily model. We could see maybe a small correction and then another upswing into March. And also, if you cross-check the date of this upswing here, which is the 8th of November this year, which is anyhow or will be an interesting point for the markets as we have the US elections coming to a conclusion during this period, which could then also kind of impact a little bit how investments in China could be seen. But anyhow, this is just guessing. This is what the time cycles show us here on the daily. So interesting. Final conclusion. Daily model, also an upswing into November. Then we need to see how we move into end of 2024. Maybe another upswing into early 2025, which is in agreement with the weekly cycles model, which tops out in early 2025. So still, let's summarize what we already have. I mean, 20 minutes. Energy model. Positive energy for last quarter 2024. Weekly model. 3 dominant cycles indicated, and they all agree on that upswing into early 2025. So still time to go. Daily model, 142 days. Also in agreement, August to November upswing, then a pause in the short-term cycle, and then another upswing early 2025 into March. So I think that's already an interesting cycles within cycles agreement, which supports the upswing, which could be just the starting point for the Chinese stocks. But okay, last but not least, I see your comments already rushing in. Thanks for that. I will get back to that in a second. I mean, the Shanghai Composite, right, must be checked in addition. So let's clean up the mess here. I will not repeat everything here as we did, so I will just do a quick summary here. Okay, right, and I will do the same procedure. Let's start with the weekly. We see the Shanghai Composite here. I will remove the big upswing here, which just happened in the past 2 weeks from our analysis. That we would be before that analysis or that event. We see here these two similar short-term cycles, which also appeared on the CSI 300, 71, 98. So the other cycles are, they are quite similar, but not the same. And also from our ranking score from that spectrum is only picking those 2 cycles here. But we know from the CSI 300 they are also there. And I mean, just for discussion here, you see how beautiful just 2 cycles. I mean, these are just 2 cycles. But how beautiful these 2 cycles are more or less able to explain almost every major turning point in the underlying series. So that's interesting. So if you have that kind of, these 2 cycles can explain almost all changes in trend. Happy. Should be happy. Yeah. And we see the similar situation as we saw on the CSI 300, bottoming out in May, June, and then an upswing long-term model into early 2025, even before we saw this up push here happening in the past 2 weeks. So agreement with the CSI 300. Let's do the same on the daily. Shanghai Composite Daily. Let's clean up my screen here. Don't want to distract you. Again, I did this already. So again, before the up move here, we're doing that analysis. It's not exactly like the spectrum. It's not exactly the same like we saw it in the CSI 300, but we also have here this interesting peak with a length of 141 days. You might remember it has been 142 days in the CSI, but we have the same ranked as number 1 here. So let's also go with that. As said, nice time-based correlation of the major swings in that index, timing-wise, which has almost the perfect agreement now of that current upswing, which just started, using that dominant daily cycle here, and has room into, again, November this year. And then if you continue another swing into early 2025, which is then the same agreement which we just saw on the CSI 300. That's it. So, it's time to pay attention again to the Chinese stock market, I would say. And I see your point, Mike Wilson. Mario. Let's start Mario. Maybe if you want to expand on that, let's directly jump now in the discussion. I think the analysis was picture clear. Mario, our AI has signaled a strong buy signal starting mid of September. So thanks for bringing that up. Maybe if you want to elaborate or give us a kind of hint what your AI is based off. I mean, not showing the details, but at least what features is your AI model taking into account to come up with that conclusion? Maybe that would be interesting. Or I don't know if cycles are part of that AI model. So Mario, if you want to add some infos, I would be very interested. And let's get through some questions here. Mike Wilson, just let me know if you are the real Mike Wilson or the Mike Wilson I have at least in mind. But anyhow, do we interpret the energy from the energy model as increase in expected outcome or as increase in force? Okay, let me try to read your question the right way. It is more as increase in force, so the second one. So the stronger the energy model, the stronger the force, so the into the upside or downside. So that's why it's visualized via green bars to the upside or even red bars to the downside, which show at that point in time how strong that increase in force or increase in momentum to the upside or the downside is. So that's how to read it. It does not give you in regards to the outcome or a chance or something like that, or the price movement. It just gives you the amount and to be interpreted relative to the energy before or even after. So if you just see small green up and red down bars, it means that the forces are fluctuating even on a low energy level anyhow. And maybe if you see there's just these low energy to the upside or downside, maybe these cycles are not tradable anyhow because the impact on price movement might be too low. But when you see an abrupt jump in that energy model, which we saw on the green energy model, then you see, okay, there's so much force and increase coming from those cycles at one point, clustered at one point, that you will see that cyclic movement in the price series. And then you look for times when you see these big clusters of energy jumps. Yeah, because that's so the relative cluster seen to the other amount of energy. That's the important point in time. So, Mike, I hope it helps a little bit to explain the energy model. We can quickly go back to that. I've not shown it here, but we can put it on the screen just for a second. And then, because I like that question, and I would even emphasize to have a deeper look into that here. So, yeah, that's the energy. If we zoom in here, September, October onwards, and that's this. You don't see it because your question is on. Because that's the huge increase in the force from cycles. So the force of cycles is a very big positive impact to the markets. And if you compare, the sheer amount of positive energy to the normal swings maybe you have within cycles, which are up and down, just a little bit up, just a little bit down. You see, maybe its cycles are not tradable in that market during this period here, like you've seen before in this strong down move here. Yeah, so from 2021, I mean, cycles would not really have guided us in that period. I mean, yeah, it's just a straight downward move for sure. There have been short-term opportunities. But this cluster here is really standing out. And as said, I have taken that out, the latest move. I've taken out that latest move. So that's what I said. This energy model would have shown us. And yeah, the next big cluster, I mean, we need to update the analysis. You see here, end of 2026, right? That's the next really big, interesting cluster coming into alignment with the strong downward forces coming into markets. But we cannot rely on that yet. Yeah, we need to update based on new data under that point in time anyhow. But it explains, hopefully, that energy model, Mike. Okay, let's check some other questions. Gold Urak, Chinese Alibaba Baba shows a daily cycle peak today. Do you know the length? I mean, I'm not finally sure which cycle length you're talking. Or, okay, sorry, you mentioned that. 133-day cycle. I cannot confirm this right now, but if we switch to the daily, it must be a cycle close to this one here. And if this is peaking, you would have very big phase difference. So if this would be peaking here, I mean, there is a big phase difference in the individual stock and the overall market. But as said, we I cannot confirm. The only comment I would like to do to this individual stock market, Goldorak, is you always need to be careful when you analyze individual assets or stocks, because single stocks just have a higher noise ratio or are impacted by, for example, news or individual stocks news coming from that individual company, which could have big events on the individual price series, which if you go into a composite, these so-called noise on individual stocks will get compensated by the larger index. So individual stocks are often more complicated, as you might find cycles which could be just the impact on higher noise ratio or higher individual events, which then alter the phase shifting around those cycles. But anyhow, I think Alibaba is anyhow a big stock where you could do the analysis. But you're maybe now on the next topic, Goldorak. Maybe look for stocks, or let me close my comment with that. If you can find stocks which are now in alignment with the composite cycles here, then maybe it's even more interesting to go with those stocks which are alignment also with the index. Yeah, so maybe that's the kind of idea here. Chris, yes, Chris. That's very specific questions to the users we have on the platform. But if you create a composite, so let's create a composite here, which is just selecting 1 or 2 cycles, for the mix here. So this is the so-called composite cycle here, which Chris just pointed out, and you can now export that as an vector, which will show this information here, and then you can copy that vector to your clipboard, which just by a mouse click, now you have it in your clipboard, and you can move over to a different platform, and we provide a standard indicator for TradingView. That's the question you're raising here. This indicator is open, and if you paste that cycle vector into TradingView, you can chart that composite cycle on your TradingView platform. So it's kind of interesting. But you mentioned you have trouble importing it, Chris. I don't want to do this right now, but you need to remove the existing content. So maybe one tip: once you open that indicator before pasting it, there is already a predefined string in the input box. You need to remove that and clear that up front. Once you have done that, paste the existing one. So ensure that there's no additional data, characters, or strings in it. Otherwise, please reach out to our service team. They will help you, because it should work, and it works. I'm also using that. I hope O3C Academy. I spent a lot of time on the energy model, and I think it's not finally sloping down. I think it starts to slope. Okay, the slope of the energy goes down. You're right. So the green bars are not as high anymore, but they are still very high. But I would not read the slope of the energy, because that's the slope of the slope of the slope, for example. So you're right, the overall energy decreases. Decreases. You're right, good spotted. But I would not count this now as it's still positive. It's still very, very positive. And therefore, there's still a lot of force into the positive area, which price will lag that energy. So therefore, O3C Academy, it is still up. It is still up. Slowing, yes, but as you have seen from the absolute amount, it's still outstanding, positive, high compared to the lower energy, the lower energy which will come then in the future. But you need to be careful. So somewhere around end of this year, this energy gets down to zero. Okay, Chris, coming back. I don't have the name in mind. Give me a second. I will put that at the end in a second, but I don't want to keep the others still engaged. Chris, wait till the end of the session. I will give you the answer in a second. Maybe just getting back to Mario, because I asked back to you. Just out of interest, our AI analyzes news, politics, technical indicators, including cycles, and vast amount of macro and micro. So Mario, thank you. So your AI then also is in alignment with the cycles we showed you, right? Which is also interesting. So thanks for bringing that up. And also, I mean, okay, we didn't analyze the Hang Seng, but you say it's also in the Hang Seng. So thanks. It's kind of supporting what we've shown here. Maybe as final question, Mario, if you're willing to give, if your AI model also is giving you some kind of indication when this upswing or positive phase might end. I mean, our cycles show that end of this year, beginning of early 2025. So from a long-term perspective, it's just a short amount of time. Not sure, Mario, if your models can conclude on that. So if you can and will, happy to hear that in the chat. And now, last but not least, Chris, back to your question. Give me a second here on the screen, at least to answer your question, because I want that you all have a benefit in stepping up with me here live and spending the time together with me. So everyone will get a benefit if you are asking. And it is called Composite Plotter. Yeah, and let me check. Maybe I can find a link to that. And I will give you the link in the chat in a second. I just need to find the right page. Oh, come on. I'm just looking up the correct link for that script. It's called Composite Plotter. Yeah, and that's the name of the script. It's a free script. It's not secured, and the link is here. Okay, I've just put that in the chat section for you, Chris, so that you also have an answer here at the end of this stream. All right. So I would say thank you all for spending the time here together with me, analyzing the Chinese markets, long-term, short-term. I think we have a conclusion found here. And I also hope that you liked a little bit the different way how the energy model could be used. So, do your own due diligence. This is no recommendation at all. Could be completely wrong, just for education. You know the disclaimer. I'm completely wrong. So don't count on what I'm saying here. Do your own due diligence. But I would like to see you next time soon. Give me your comments. Like, subscribe, tell your friends. This is the education on cycle analysis. Thank you for staying and see you next week. Bye.